Astroport's Shmup Collection, originally released on Wii U and released in an expanded form on Switch, contains 3 shoot-'em-ups developed for the Dreamcast, but after the end of its lifespan. Armed 7 is proof that the Dreamcast is still getting great games in the many years following its last official release, thanks to the folks at Astroport. Having since been ported to the Wii U and Switch as part of the Shmup Collection, as well as being released on Steam, Armed 7 is an exemplar of horizontal shooting excellence. Armed 7 is a retro-styled arcade shoot-'em-up that not only captures the feel of the 16 and 32-bit eras pretty perfectly, but in my opinion, it surpasses most of the offerings that are originally from that era. The visuals are colorful, with gorgeous sprite work. The music is fantastic and upbeat enough to capture the action of a shoot-'em-up, but not so intense that it distracts the player. And best of all, the controls are perfectly tight and responsive, without the slightest hint of delay. With 7 stages, each capped with a boss, and 4 difficulty settings, it's approachable for newcomers, but also challenging for veterans. It's not quite perfect. I think a local multiplayer would have been a welcome addition, given the hardware power that the Dreamcast, Wii U, and Switch have relative to the visuals, but it's damn close to perfect. Armed 7 is one of the best shoot-'em-ups on the Dreamcast, and it's a welcome addition to the Shmup Collection compilations on Switch and Wii U. While most folks won't play it on an actual Dreamcast with original hardware, it does play like a dream no matter what your platform of choice is. Unless you're going for the physical Wii U release of Shmup Collection, which was exclusive to Europe and in very small quantities, it's a pretty affordably priced game and easily accessible with a Switch or a Switch 2. And I consider it a definite must-own for any Shmup fan. My rating for Armed 7 on Dreamcast, Wii U, Switch, and Windows is an A. Satazius Next, like Armed 7, is not only a relatively recent release for the ill-fated and underappreciated, at least during its life, Sega Dreamcast, but it's also among the best shoot-'em-ups I've ever played. Once again, the folks at Astroport have produced a truly exceptional and breathtaking Dreamcast shooter, and to my infinite pleasure, they saw fit to port it to both the Switch as well as my beloved Wii U, as part of the Shmup Collection compilations. Satazius Next, like Armed 7, is a horizontally scrolling shooter, but Astroport really went above and beyond with this one. Like their other games, the sprite work looks fantastic, and the music is exceptional, and their controls are just as tight and responsive as you could possibly hope for. What makes Satazius Next stand out, though, is the incredible level design. In most shoot-'em-ups, the enemies and their shots are your main danger, hence the colloquial nickname Bullet Hell, and any obstacles in the level are usually just kind of a minor annoyance to add a little bit of an extra challenge. While not to understate the threat that these enemies pose to you, that formula gets flipped on its head in Satazius Next. Especially after the first couple of levels, the obstacles and physical design of the levels is definitely your greatest threat, while the enemies serve mostly to exacerbate that threat, by limiting your movement with their shots. It sort of turns the traditional formula on its head, where your main problem is the obstacles and the enemies are annoying, versus the main problem being the enemies and your obstacles are just annoying. I very rarely died to enemy fire in this game, but the level itself killed me a lot. There are tons of platformers with ingeniously brutal level designs and layouts, but Satazius Next is one of the few shoot-'em-ups I've played with equally diabolical level designs, and it makes the game feel totally different to most of the genre. With multiple difficulty levels and weapons to unlock and level up, there's also a lot of replay value here. Satazius Next took me over twice as long to clear on easy as Armed 7 did, simply because of how difficult the levels got. Once you get to the second half of the game, the brutal levels are accompanied by some seriously damage sponge bosses too. It's certainly not the hardest shoot-'em-up I've ever played, but it's one that poses a genuine challenge, as opposed to just being hard, if that distinction makes any sense. You have to memorize not just enemy patterns and bullet spreads, but also level layouts, and that's something that most of the genre doesn't require, certainly not to this extent. It made for a refreshing, even if frustrating, experience, and I truly can't recommend this game highly enough. It's definitely in my top 10 shoot-'em-ups of all time list now. My rating for Satazius Next on Dreamcast, Wii U, Switch, and Windows is an A. Like ARM 7 and Satazius Next, Wolflame is a truly excellent Dreamcast shoot-'em-up made by a genius team at Astroport. Unlike those two games, it's not included on the Shmup Collection compilation on Wii U, but it fortunately is included in the version of that game that was released on Switch. Real gamers, however, will play this on the Dreamcast where it belongs. I'm being a little bit facetious there, but Dreamcast really is probably the most authentic feeling way to experience this game. Now, unlike ARM 7 and Satazius Next, Wolflame is a vertically scrolling shooter, whereas those two scrolled horizontally. Personally, I much prefer vertical scrolling shooters to horizontal scrolling, so this was a great change of pace for me after playing through two horizontally scrolling shooters. Like those two aforementioned games, Astroport did a wonderful job with pretty much every aspect of this game. The sprites look sharp and beautiful, the colors really pop, and personally I think this has the best music of the three shoot-'em-ups in the Shmup Collection compilation on Switch. As always, tight controls bring an exceptionally fun and responsive shooter. And when you die in Wolflame, you know it's always going to be your fault. You're not really going to find any cheap or BS deaths in this game. The only thing really keeping Wolflame from perfection, in my opinion, is the lack of multiplayer. This is true for a lot of shoot-'em-ups on the Dreamcast, especially those made after the end of its regular lifespan, but I think local multiplayer really would have benefited the game here. The difficulty curve, I thought, was extremely fair, with it being pretty manageable in the beginning, and a huge obstacle towards the end. The bosses likewise are tough, but they're not insurmountable, and each of the three weapon pickup types are completely distinct from each other and have their own roles. There's not just a useless weapon here like a machine gun is in a lot of shooters like this. It would have been cool to see some environmental hazards in the level design like with Satazius Next, but as a more traditional vertical shmup, Wolflame is hard to beat. Being on the Dreamcast is yet another check in the column, in my opinion, but if you've got a Switch or a gaming PC, those are perfectly fine ways to experience this game. My rating for Wolflame on Dreamcast, Switch, and Windows is an A. And there it is. Given that I gave all three of these games an A individually, I'm also going to grade the Shmup Collection as a whole with an A. If you've got a Switch, make sure to check this out. If you've got a Wii U and some extra money, that version's a pretty cool collector's piece as well.